You don't really think that I forgot about my favorite team, the Toronto Raptors. Did you actually think that? Let's preview the Raptors for this upcoming fantasy basketball season. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and you'll find me on the cover of next month's Vogue Canada magazine. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and when that bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. To use across the app, head to FanDuel.com right now to get started. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free, and we are available on all platforms. We're here to actually finish the team preview series. Toronto, you've got to be proud, though. You are no longer, at this point, the most annoying and whiny fan base in the world. It is Portland. Part of the reason why this ongoing Canada bit started is just like, hey, I think Evan Mobley might be a better player than Scottie Barnes. I think he should win Rookie of the Year. Oh my God, you just like all the media. You just hate Canada. You never see anything. You got no idea. Trust him. So I went, all right, cool. So now I'm just going to pretend that I hate everything Canada, and that turned into a bit, right? That's a bit. But Portland is worse now. So either Toronto, Canada, you need to step your game up. You need to step your game up in being insane in the way you evaluate your players, or you can let Portland have it. Up to you. I don't really mind. I'll fight them. I'll take the fight wherever I need to. But my first true hatred will be with you guys. We are here to talk about this Raptors team, which, as per usual, and I think a lot of Raptors fans will understand this, that part of my criticism of Toronto is nothing. It's not actually to do with the fans. I always want success for the fans and for the team, but like the front office making decisions that make no sense. Masai Ujiri fired now. Does that make sense? I didn't love a lot of his moves, but I think part of the problem was they're not his moves. I think that some of it is coming through from ownership because he goes and they do the same thing again. So, yeah, is Bobby Webster just doing the same thing that Masai wanted to do, or was Webster pushing it, or was, what's it called, MLSE pushing it onto Webster, who forced Ujiri and then the power shot? I don't know. All I know is I don't like the direction. The team seems to not have a direction, and that is part of the criticism. Now, they are going to be probably better than last season. I'm pretty sure about that. They will probably find themselves in the play-in at the very least, maybe the playoffs. Does that mean they're good or they're going in the right direction? Not necessarily. I'll talk about that as we go through and try and dissect the fantasy value of these players. Let's take a look at what I think will be their starting lineup, and let's be honest. This might be the most obvious starting group in the entirety of the NBA. There is not, in my mind, a single question in that starting group. It's Immanuel Quickley, Rowan Barrett Jr., Brandon Ingram, Scottie Barnes, and Jakob Poeltl. When they are healthy, this is their starting group. Well, you cannot give me a different way around this. Their bench group becomes more interesting because I've got 6 names in that rotation, and that doesn't include a guy who could easily be their backup center in Sandro Mamakhalishvili. So they are a weird team in terms of fit with all their players. We know this. There's still a lack of shooting. There's a lack of playmaking on the team, a lack of passing. And my group for the rotation includes Dick, because Dick will play, but we just won't see as much Dick from Toronto as we saw last season because he started, and honestly, it wasn't good Dick. It was bad Dick most of the time, and I think they're going to shrink it down a little bit. You'll have Jamal Shed. You'll have first-round pick Colin Murray-Boyles. You'll have Jacoby Walter, I guess. But how does Walter and Dick fit in that second unit together? With Shed, with Murray-Boyles, and with a guy that was dreadful and then had a very good season last season, Ochai Agbaji. And then there's Jonathan Mobo, who I guess will be the backup center, but like I said, Sandro Mamakhalishvili has played well in preseason as well. Then there's guys like Jamison Battle and AJ Lawson, who we don't have to worry about too much, but there's legit 12 guys who are solid rotation players. Finding the fit with these guys, that's where it does tend to be tough. especially because those 5 starters are all on big money contracts. All of them really do need the ball in their hands, and they're all going to play big minutes. So finding enough Dick, Shed, Murray Boyles, Walter Rabaji, Mobo, Mamu minutes, it's going to require injuries to get there. I am pretty sure about that. What are the questions on these projections that we need to ask ourselves? Because I'll tell you one thing. It is preseason, obviously. But the first 2 preseason games for this Raptors team, Scottie Barnes is like, it doesn't appear that he is going to be the number 1 guy. And I think a lot of the ADP stuff on Barnesy, a lot of the expectations for this team is around Scottie Barnes being an all-NBA player, an all-star, or maybe a fringe MVP guy at some point in the future. But so far, he's sort of taking a back seat. He only played one of the 2 games, and he did have, I think, a bit of a knee problem in that game. But it's Brandon Ingram who was the number 1 guy. Barnes, in that first game, had a usage of 17%. He only played 19 minutes, but he scored 1 point. Now, he had 3 steals, he had 5 assists, but is he going to turn into like Draymond Green? Someone who doesn't shoot, and the others all do? And he defends and facilitates? Because be very cautious about that. It is 1 game, but that is stark, right? The way the ball was distributed in Darko's offense was very much Barnes, not that guy. Which is fair. He's not a good offensive player. He's not a good shooter. We saw a lot of the regression happen that I thought would happen with him last season. He is a good passer. He's a pretty good defender who can be overrated at times. But it is all the fit is questionable on this team. And that's not Barnes' fault. That's structure. They picked Colin Murray-Boyles in the first round. I don't mind Colin Murray-Boyles as a player. He does have like some legitimate Draymond Green stuff. His defensive things are very good. His shooting is bad. His passing ability is really good. And we've seen that in preseason. He's been impressive in the preseason, Murray Boyles. I've liked what I've seen. He's averaged 8, 5, and 3.5 with a block in under 20 minutes. Like, they're good numbers as a rookie, but he can't shoot. He hasn't shot. And then where does he play? How can he possibly get enough minutes for us to look at Murray Boyles and consider that there's fantasy value? Now, I know there's going to be, and I know you guys will try very hard, Raptors fans, to take back the crown of the insane. And someone tell me, he's awesome, Murray Boyles, you'll see, win Rookie of the Year. And my question will always be, okay, so Barnes is coming off the bench, is he? Because how does it fit otherwise? Because you play the 240 game with this team, and you can't get 30 minutes for him. It's just impossible to do. Not that he's getting drafted particularly high in many spots, Murray Boyles. He's not. Like, his rankings, like his Yahoo ranking is obviously insane at 662. Like, that's clearly ridiculous. He should be around 200, 220, I'd say. But yeah, on ESPN points, he's at 167. On ESPN categories, at 187. I don't know how that's happening. So where does he fit? You want to talk about concerning preseason things, like Immanuel Quickley, it's not been good. It is only 2 games. I'm not going to read into it, but this is a team where we just needed to figure out, is there, like, we know there's enough dick, but are there enough balls to go around to these players? Because Immanuel Quickley is their best shooter. But will he get enough of it? So far, the answer is no. 19 usage, 8 points, and even the shot looks weird. His release is slower. He got a couple of 1 to 2 3-pointers blocked. And if Ingram's going to be rolling with this incredibly high usage, and so is Barrett, which is it's a choice to have Barrett and Ingram as your 2 highest volume guys, is Quickley just a spot up, catch and shoot guy now? Like, I thought that Quickley was going to have a good season last season. Injuries derailed it. He was pretty good per game at the stretch, but there's a lot of weird stuff happening. And then this season, I thought, before the Ingram trade happened at last trade deadline, that Quickley would be slept on by everybody and he would be a great option. And then when they acquired Ingram and they kept this team together, I was like, I'm not really sure about where it's going to fit. And I'm sort of high on Quickley, but also I think he can be a top 40 player in the right scenario. But this is not the right scenario. I think that there is a worry that he is going to start to go too high in drafts, and the preseason has concerned me. But like I said, does this team view Brandon Ingram as a star? You may not do that. I might not do that. But do they think that he is the alpha, the number 1? Because, again, he has been great in preseason. He shot the ball well, but most importantly, he took a lot of threes. And that is not something that he really ever does. And that's part of the concern. And he hit him at a really good rate. He hit his free throws. Now, he doesn't generate defensive numbers, and I don't think he's going to have the good passing numbers that he had in New Orleans necessarily, because Quickley, Barrett, and Barnes are going to do some of that. If they're not going to do any shooting, they're going to do some passing. Part of the concern with Ingram is always, well, maybe not always, we hope not always, but largely going to be availability. Because he's someone that, like, I don't like on this show, I don't like to do this, and I don't really ever do it. And I'm not really even going to do it now. But I don't go in and speculate about a player's state of mind. Oh, he's definitely like, it's part of why like I do the work to study things like revenge games and contract years, because it's very easy to imagine a psychological scenario, but like if the data doesn't prove it, then it doesn't prove it. So what are we doing? Just trying to get inside another man's head? I don't want to do that. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that like this guy could play. Why he doesn't play, he's soft. He doesn't want to be there. He's weak as piss. He's not motivated. He doesn't like his team. I don't know that. I'm not in the locker room. I don't know what's in his head. I don't know what his health is like. But I will say this about Brandon Ingram. You do not hear this very often. You've heard it for like 2 players, I'd say, recently. But there are reports about Ingram. These teammates are like, bro, what are you doing? You can definitely play. You are being a softcock. We have heard that. For his time in New Orleans, for these injuries, that like the rumbling is, probably shouldn't take that long to come back, should it? From teammates, from the locker room. And that's bad. Jarrett Allen's the other one of those. In Cleveland, we had that concern. But I don't like to say you're soft for not playing through an injury, and I'm not. I'm telling you what teammates have said about Ingram off the record. That is a concern. Now, will he enjoy being in Toronto and want to push through that? I don't know. But he played 18 games in 33 minutes. We never saw him after like December. His numbers were fine, 22, 5, and 5. They're good numbers. He could easily repeat that. He was like a top 50 player. He could repeat that as well. I do think the assists will come down. I think he's more realistic on a like top 70 per game basis. But there is no track record of staying healthy, and the concern of maybe he doesn't push as hard as he should, which is not something that I'm going to apply to really any other player unless I hear it. And that's, I think that's part of the concern here with Brandon Ingram and when you draft him. I like drafting him. I do. I draft him in quite a few spots. I'm trying to think, I've had him in a couple of mocks. Do I actually have him in any real drafts? We'll have a look. But there is a concern there. The last thing I'll put in these projection questions as we're going along, because there is a lot to talk about on this team, is the guards. Jakob Poeltl, Grade A Dick, the prestige penis, and Jamal Shed, Shed World. Where do these, like, how do they play enough? Shed, good on-ball defender. Dick, allegedly a shooter? Not really. Some may say shooting blanks. Jakob Poeltl, a poor shot selection shooting guard who doesn't do too much and had a little bit of a breakout at the end of last season, but still wasn't a great fantasy player. I have Ingram in 1 league so far, by the way. So how did that get handled? That's what we're going to have to find out, because that will matter when guys like Quickley or Barrett or Ingram miss time. How do they distribute the playing time here? We'll come back and talk undervalued and overvalued guys. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by the big fellas at PricePicks every day. We make decisions, but with PricePicks, being right can actually get you paid. So don't miss out on that excitement of football season and basketball season and hockey season and baseball playoffs with PricePicks, where it is good to be right. Playing PricePicks is a fun and simple way to add more excitement to the sport that you're into. You just pick more or less on player projections. It might be Luka Doncic assists. It might be Luka Doncic points, which you can do now with their stack system, where you can put the points in, more or less, assists in, more or less. With LeBron missing the start of the season, that's going to be an interesting thing to chuck in there. Or you can throw Josh Allen and passing yards, or Saquon Barkley and rushing touchdowns. Do all that with PricePicks. So download the PricePicks app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. You don't even have to win that. You just get the 50 given to you. The code is LOCKEDONNBA for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PricePicks. It's good to be right. All right. We are talking Raptors. We're looking at the value on these guys and some of the questions we had regarding the season coming up. So let's talk about some undervalued players. And there are some that I think at the moment, this is one that I have banged on about a lot, and I'm not really sure why it is. Well, let's start with Immanuel Quickley, who we just talked about already. But there are certain spots where I do worry about Quickley where it is possible that he goes too high, but there are also situations here with Quickley where I think he's going too low, and that's very specific to ESPN. ESPN for Quickley for category leagues has him at 108. Okay. On points leagues, he's at 99. His ADP is 111. Reminder, ESPN is a base 10 default league, meaning that if he's going at 111, on average, people are drafting on ESPN and going, well, I guess I'll throw Immanuel Quickley on my bench, which, as much as I can be cautious about what he's going to do this season, I feel pretty good that he's better than that. Whether it's points leagues, where I think he's a top 60 or 70 ESPN points guy, top 70 Yahoo points guy, and probably top 80 category league guy, who, if Ingram was to go down for a long period of time, he would probably be a top 50 player. Last season, it wasn't good for him, but he was still top 100 in points leagues in 31 points a game and played 28 minutes only. I expect he's a 33-minute player. Give him 5 extra minutes, which is about an extra 20%, not quite, but close. And he's beating these numbers. That's why the ESPN numbers, they don't make sense. I don't get why they are as low as they are. Are they just expecting that the fall on his elbow / back / UCL / whatever happened, the 3 injuries he had last season are going to be repeatable? I don't think that's the case. He barely ever missed time playing in New York and then arrived in Toronto and had injuries like preseason, first game of the season, then another one, and that just ruined it. That's why he played only 33 games and only 28 minutes. I think, like I've talked about already, I think there is a chance that Brandon Ingram is a little underrated. I think he's a top 60-ish points league guy. You could look to top 50 even for him if you're talking, without that sort of risk, I guess, or if you're ignoring some of the injury risk, which is a real thing. And he sits with a ranking, an ADP of 76 on Yahoo, on Fantrax at 80 for Brandon Ingram, and ESPN at 82. So which does bake in the risk, but for categories and points, this should be a top 60 player, probably nudging top 50, and there can be value there. The other one that I do talk about quite a bit, and you see me draft him a lot, is Jakob Poeltl. I don't really understand why Poeltl is positioned where he is. I think that Poeltl is close to a top 50 category league player. I think he's a top 60 points league player, but he's at 84 on Yahoo. He's at 67 on Fantrax. He's at 81 ADP on ESPN. His points league rank on ESPN at 57, bang on. That's really good. The others are all too low. Now I know that Poeltl was not we knew last season. He came out and said, our priority is not winning games. And he sat games down the stretch. We know this, every one of their players. Game in, game out, game in, game out. But who's their backup center? John Mobo? Sandro Mamakilishvili? Poeltl might be their most irreplaceable player. Because if they lose Scottie Barnes, Brandon Ingram does more passing. Murray Boyle steps up in defense. Quickley does more. They lose Barrett, Grady Dick steps up. Walter steps up. They lose Poeltl, and it's Mobo. And it's Mamu. Who are, whatever, they're fine, but they're not the same. So he's going to need, if they're pushing, and I don't know what else they're doing, but if they're pushing to get 40 wins, he has to play. He was 62nd in points and 65th in category leagues last season in 30 minutes a night with 18 usage. Yeah, he's got a bad free throw guy, 67%. But he averaged over a steal and a block, 1.2 of each. 3 assists, 10 rebounds, 15 points. So he's not even your traditional center. It's rebounds, field goals, blocks. He had steals. He had some assists, comparing that to a Walker Kessler. Way fewer blocks, obviously, but a little bit more contribution across the board. But you can get him in the 80s in drafts. Now, most of the drafts that I do, he goes in the 60s. So the value does get eliminated somewhat. But in the 60s, I feel relatively safe about what the floor of Jakob is. In that zone of a draft. I feel good about that. What about overvalued guys? There's only really one that I want to talk about there, and it is Rowan Barrett. Now, Barrett is always one of these guys. He's always one of the poster children, so to speak, of the divide between category leagues and points leagues in terms of rankings. I think that he's a top 80 Yahoo points guy. I think he's a top 90 ESPN points guy. I think that for category leagues, he might not be a top 100 player, especially with the way some of the rotation stuff is going. And he's ranked at 93 on Yahoo, okay? He's at 85 ADP, which I do not want to do for categories. His ESPN category rank is 100, which is not bad, but his ADP is 85, which is bad. And I don't like that. Now, his numbers, like some of these Raptors we talk about, in the preseason, his first game was really good. Then the next one, brutal. 44 from the field overall, 60% from the line. This is the problem with Rowan, is that he's got absolutely horrific field goals and free throws. He's not a defensive stat guy either. Now, one of the things that drew me to being interested more in Barrett when he was traded here is that when he arrived in Toronto, he changed his shot profile. He said, cool, we're not taking as many threes. We're not taking middies. We're just getting to the rim. And he got to the rim at such an elevated rate and he finished them and his field goal percentage went way up. That dropped off last season. And if we get back to that scenario where he's not cutting and he's not driving, then we're going to be a bad field goal, bad free throw, bad steal, bad block player who can't hit threes. And that gives you points, rebounds, and assists. And even the assists are going to be spread between Barnes, Ingram, Quickley, and then someone like Murray Boyles and Shed coming off the bench, which is all bad. So Barrett at 80 in a points league, I get it. In a category league, that doesn't feel like what I want to do. 50th in points last season. 80th in categories. But we have to remember, Ingram joins, no one leaves. Quickley plays more than 33 games. So a lot of this stuff, he's 21, 6, and 5, is going to be very tough to repeat. 28 usage, very tough to repeat. Because it is, you can go and get your 28 usage if, guys are not there. But like to me, he's more of a 24 usage guy. And you lose 24 usage, the shooting again wasn't great. You lose assist opportunities, then you tumble quite a lot. And that's going to make it obviously less appealing. We'll come back and talk stars, injuries, breakouts. Today's episode, though, it is brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that can make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly known as OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system that you've heard me talk about for ages when it was called OpenPhone. It's just got a new name. And that's why it matters. It's every missed call is money that's left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, then you need a phone system that keeps up and keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the number one business phone system that streamlines customer communications, working right through an app on your phone or on your computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on the landline. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedonnba. That is quo.com/lockedonnba. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo. No missed calls and no missed customers. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, you pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You might be just a casual fan watching a sport and say, I think something's going to happen here, or it might be a sport you're deep into. Maybe it's the NBA, and you're seeing interesting things develop. You can do live betting. You could do same-game parlays, player props, spreads, futures. Put it all together on FanDuel. Use those bonus bets as well and see what happens. So what are you waiting for? Go to FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today, and get started. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. We're here, of course, to talk about my favorite team, the Toronto Raptors. We're looking at their fantasy value for the upcoming season. So let's dig in and look at the guys that I consider potential stars. And what do I mean by that? Maybe they've got top 50 value. Scottie Barnes is one of those players. He'd be the one that in almost all of these situations is going to be drafted first out of all the Raptors guys. I mentioned already I don't like that he missed that game in the preseason. I didn't like how the offense was being distributed, and I didn't like the reliance on Brandon Ingram as a number one guy. He was a 26 usage player last season, so he was already below Rowan Barrett in terms of usage. So where is he this season if Ingram's getting 26, 27? Is Barnes 24? Is he 22? Does the assists go from 5.8 to 6.5? Does the shooting ever improve? Or is he like a 16-point per game player? He was 37th in category leagues last season and 24th for points leagues. I do think that there is a slight worry that he is getting overdrafted. His ADP is 26. On Yahoo, it's 25 on Fantrax. His ESPN category rank is 29. His points rank at 33 feels about right for ESPN. But he was someone who I did like at the end of the second round, and I'm sort of souring on that. I'm pushing him more mid-third towards late third with concerns over percentages, with concerns over usage, concerns over three-point volume, and concerns over where he sort of fits into the offensive hierarchy now. We do not want him to become Draymond Green. Now, he will have a higher usage than Draymond, I'm very sure of that. But if the efficiency doesn't improve and he loses 4-5 usage points, possible, Not likely, but possible. I don't even project it for that. I've got him dropped from 2 percentage points. But what if it goes further? What if it is just Barrett and Ingram for some reason as the 2 main guys? Now, maybe the rise in assists for Barnes makes you want to draft him higher. I understand that. The steals and blocks are very appealing. But you do have to understand some of his limitations and what happens if that usage number for him drops. And I think that's a realistic thing. I think there is a chance that Brandon Ingram is a top 50 player. It is going to require a few things to happen, but there's a chance. There's a chance that Jakob Poeltl is a top 50 player, and there is a chance that Immanuel Quickley is a top 50 player. Now, at the moment, I only have Barnes as projected as a top 50 guy. But I can see how those other 3 guys can get there. And we also saw RJ Barrett be a top 50 player in points leagues last season. I don't think that's possible this season, but we did see it. But there are opportunities for multiple of these guys to be able to find that sort of a role. Their new arrivals list is pretty small. They made their move getting Ingram last season and then extending him, but they drafted Colin Murray-Boyles in the top 10. They signed Sandro Mamukelashvili to battle with Jonathan Mobo to be the backup center. They have Elijah Martin and Chucky Hepburn on 2-way contracts. And that's it. That's the additions. Murray-Boyles, like I said, the shooting is going to be bad. I think the defensive stuff and the assist will be good, but where are the minutes? And then Mamu might be the backup, but Poeltl hasn't played in the preseason, and you've seen Mobo start and Mamu get the backup minutes. So does Mobo get the backup and Mamu doesn't play? Overall, the new arrival, honestly, is Ingram, because he hasn't played for Toronto yet. But he arrived last season. I'll be honest with you, I don't know that there's anyone who's a breakout on this team. I don't think Quickley or Ingram or Barnes or Barrett or Poeltl or Dick or Walter, I don't think any of them are breaking out. I just don't see a breakout candidate. And honestly, outside of that Barnes injury, there's no real injuries currently on the team. Ingram's fine. His toe is okay. Now maybe Barnes' injury is a little bit more concerning and Quickley had the injuries there, but he's playing now. They're all fine. The only one there is maybe marginally worried is Barnesy. And in terms of the fantasy schedule, there's not much going on there either. 15 back-to-backs, no weirdness through the playoffs. Pretty stock standard stuff. So if we want to recap where we're at with the Raptors, I think that Barnes, if you're getting him in round 2, it could be risky. I think 3rd round probably makes more sense. Poeltl, I love it if you're going in the 80s, but you're probably going to have to get him in the 60s, and I think it's okay to do that. Ingram in the 80s and the 90s, unbelievable. That is crazily good value. You worry if he starts to push a bit higher? Concerns. I'm souring a little on Quickley. I liked him in the 60s. I'm not as much there now. It's more 70s that I'm looking at Quickley. For categories, points leagues, I can go into the 60s, and Barrett to me is around 100, and you look in the 70s for points leagues. And then you got like Shed, Murray-Boyles, who if they do get starting roles due to injuries, we would stream them. Dick, we saw him start most of last season, Grady, and we didn't get anything good. And I don't really see the opportunity to get that. And the same with Abaji, who needs a lot of guys out and a lot of minutes to be useful, and Jakob Poeltl. And I don't think any of those things are happening. We keep an eye on players like Mobo, on Mamukelashvili, because they are players that if they are put into situations where they have to start because others are out and they're getting minutes, we will use them. Shed, Murray-Boyles, Mobo, and Mamu, if they are pushed into lineups where they have to start due to multiple injuries, we will use them. Like Dick and Abaji and Walter, debatable. They might need like 5 guys out like we saw at the end of last season. But the others, there is good permanent fantasy production for Shed, CMB, Mobo, and Mamu. But yeah, we need that to go the way that it needs to go. If you're watching this on the YouTube app, slide the comments across, hype it up. But wherever you are, subscribe, audio and video. Thumb up, leave your comments down below. See, I didn't hate Toronto too much. Still don't really understand the point of the team, but I do think they'll probably make the playoffs. Guys, we are done here. Step up your game, Toronto. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.